tracing the gap between thoughts to its source. Opening transmission. Where does a thought go when it ends, and what exists before the next one begins? In the vast inner sky of awareness, thoughts come and go like birds in flight, some loud, some fleeting, some carrying the weight of memory or desire. But if you pay close attention, not to the thoughts themselves, but to the space between them, a great mystery is revealed. There is a gap, a silent, invisible pause, a doorway that does not belong to time. And through that doorway, the pathless path unfolds. This is the practice, not of thinking, not of stopping thought, but of gently tracing the space between thoughts all the way back to its origin. And that origin is not nothingness. It is the living silence beneath everything. Let us now turn inward to follow the invisible thread of stillness and discover what waits at the center of the mind's disappearing act. 1. Understanding the nature of the gap. Thoughts appear as events in the mind. Each one seems to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. But what is most often overlooked is what happens between them. The gap. The gap between two thoughts is not a thing. It is not made of words. It has no image, no form, no story. It is a pause, often so brief we don't notice it. And yet, that pause is where truth begins to reveal itself. The mind is movement. The gap is stillness. The mind is sound. The gap is silence. The mind is identity. The gap is being. By learning to recognize the space between thoughts, we begin to shift from being lost in mental noise to being anchored in pure awareness. This is not about controlling the mind. It is about noticing what remains when the mind is momentarily absent. 2. Why the gap is the gateway. Every true spiritual tradition points, directly or indirectly, to what cannot be thought, to what is beyond memory, beyond language, beyond mental form. This is because truth is not an idea. It is not contained in beliefs or philosophies. It is found only in direct experience. And the gap between thoughts offers the most accessible, purest doorway into that direct experience. In the gap there is no past, no future, no personal history, no story of who you are or what you've done, only presence. When you enter the gap, you enter the timeless. You enter the original state, not altered, not induced, but already here. Always here. The gap does not need to be created. It only needs to be recognized, and the more we rest in that space, the more the illusion of separation begins to dissolve. 3. How to recognize the gap in real time. You don't need a monastery or a mountaintop to find the gap. You don't need incense or chants or perfect posture. The gap is available in every moment if you learn how to notice it. Start like this. Sit quietly. Let your attention settle. Now, wait for a thought to arise. As one ends, notice the silence before the next one begins. That tiny pause, that soft emptiness. That is the gap. Don't rush to fill it. Don't grab for another thought. Just allow yourself to rest as the silence. If another thought comes, let it, then watch again. Between each thought, there it is. Stillness. No technique is required, only patience, curiosity, gentleness. Over time, the gap begins to widen, not in time, but in clarity. It's not that the silence gets longer, it's that you begin to live in it. 4. What the gap reveals about the self. In ordinary life, the sense of self is constantly being reaffirmed by thoughts. I need to do this. I am this kind of person. This is what I believe. But in the gap, those thoughts vanish, and with them the sense of a separate self begins to dissolve. What remains is not confusion. It is not numbness. It is a clear, spacious knowing. Not I know this, but I am this. You begin to realize you are not your thoughts. You are the space in which they appear and disappear. You are not the river of mind. You are the sky in which the river flows. This understanding does not come from reasoning. It arises spontaneously in the gap, where thought cannot enter and yet knowing remains. 5. The challenges of staying in the gap. The modern world is not built for silence. It is built for noise, for speed, for distraction. So when you begin to notice the gap, the mind may panic. It may say, "This is boring, this is nothing, I'm doing it wrong, I need to think." These are just more thoughts. Let them pass. The gap may feel empty at first, but only because we are used to filling ourselves with content. But if you rest inside the space, you will discover it is not empty at all. It is full of peace, full of presence, full of being. The challenge is not the gap itself. The challenge is our addiction to avoiding it. But once you taste it, truly taste it, you'll begin to crave its stillness more than any story the mind can offer. Number 6, tracing the gap to its source. The gap between thoughts is not just a resting place, it is a portal, a subtle opening into the vastness from which all thoughts arise and into which they return. If you become intimate with this space, you will eventually begin to feel a pull, a silent invitation. That invitation is calling you deeper, past the mind, past the ego, past even the witness. It is calling you back to the source, not as an idea, not as a location, but as your original nature. In tracing the gap back to its origin, you are not moving backward in time, you are moving inward into being. You are following the river upstream to the spring. You are turning attention inward, not to thoughts about the self, but to the light of awareness itself. This is where the real path begins, not through belief, but through direct, wordless knowing. 7. Living from the gap. The purpose of this practice is not to escape life, it is to awaken within it. As you learn to rest in the gap between thoughts, something begins to shift. You speak with more clarity, you listen more deeply, you act without effort. This is because your actions now arise from stillness, not reactivity. You are no longer living from past conditioning or anxious prediction. You are living from presence, from the unshakable ground of being that rests beneath the swirl of mental movement. And because this ground is not personal, your compassion deepens, your patience expands, your sense of self becomes transparent, and yet somehow more whole. You begin to live as the gap, even in motion, even in conversation, even in challenge. Mystical reflection. There is a silence that watches your thoughts come and go. It was there before your first memory. It will be there after your last breath. It is not bound by personality or time. It is not a technique. It is not a destination. It is the pause between this sentence and the next. The breath you forgot you were breathing. The stillness behind your listening. When you trace the gap between thoughts to its source, you are not learning something new. You are remembering something ancient, something holy, something that has always been here, quietly waiting beneath the noise. Let your attention fall into that space now, not to escape this moment, but to enter it fully, from the inside out. There is nothing more to seek, only this, only now, only the source. If this transmission touched something within you, if it helped you taste the silent space behind your thoughts, consider subscribing for more sacred teachings on stillness, presence, and deep inner transformation. And if you feel called to support this work, becoming a channel member helps sustain and grow this living library of timeless wisdom. Next episode, Conscious Blackout, Advanced Absorption into the Void. Let us meet where thought cannot follow.